Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, July 7th, 2022. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hello and welcome to the podcast. This week I am Norm, and back with us is Kishore. Kishore, good to see you. How was your July 4th weekend?
I had a very traditional San Francisco 4th of July where the fog came in and you can't see any fireworks.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. No, we don't go out anymore, obviously, because of where the world is, but also it's like there was a time where like New Year's and 4th of July, we tried to, roll the dice and find a place where you could see some fireworks because they still do that. But no, I think it's really tough to catch good fireworks. It's not like LA, right, where you can find the hill and you can just see like a crazy smattering of small and large fireworks everywhere.
Yeah, I did 4th of July the way I care about 4th of July, which is grilling various meats and imbibing various drinks. And it was really great.
Awesome. Well, we have a fun episode for everyone this week. We actually have an interview special, so we'll have a special guest later on, a very talented and amazing cosplayer named Allison Chase. And we've recorded the interview already, but I can say that she's a ton of fun and her work is incredible. Kishore, thank you for getting us all together for that.
I rarely say this, but you should watch the video for this one because we're going to intersperse the interview with photos and different looks at the builds that she does, and she does big cosplays, and does it with like an attitude that is like very much in the maker spirit of Tested. So I encourage people to check out the video this week.
But before we get to that conversation, we're going to run through some quick catch up in some pop culture news and moments. This is, of course, the week of Thor Love and Thunder's release. I can't believe that's out at the end of this week. And the reviews embargo just dropped a day ago. Kishore, they're not that great.
Yeah, all I heard was, I've tried to stay away. All I've heard is it's a fun, hot mess. And I was like, it was like, I both am like, hey, I trust Taika Waititi a lot. I like what he does. It's usually very comic booky, and it has heart. And so that's all I'm looking for. It's not the kind of reviews that we got for Ragnarok, which is, hailed as one of the best MCU movies of all time. I think we are in the phase 5 might be MCU malaise, because Doctor Strange was kind of flat. If this is also like misses, we'll have like, a couple movies in a row. Don't get me wrong. The last Spider-Man movie was amazing. But we've had with like the Eternals, even Shang-Chi to a certain extent didn't kind of hit its mark. So we're kind of in this sort of like just going through the motions a little bit.
It's fascinating because those new movies you mentioned, even though they are sequels, like here's Thor 4, we're talking about Spider-Man 3, Doctor Strange 2, and a mix of new franchises as well. They're not bound by the kind of buildup that a lot of the phase 1, 2, and 3 movies were. Like, if anything, I would have expected the movies to be burdened, and maybe some of if there was any mess or disappointment, it'd be that they were saddled with the need to connect to or build up to a big bad or big event. But the movies we're talking about have been pretty like independently done. Like they've been standalones in terms of their story. We actually don't know what the big thread is going to be between the TV shows and here. And like you said, Ragnarok, one of the best MCU movies, such a revelation in terms of Taika's voice and the comedy and the heart. And I haven't seen Love and Thunder yet, but even if it was just a continuation of that, I couldn't imagine that being a disappointment. So kind of shocking to see those reviews, honestly.
Yeah, but I'm still gonna see it because I love Taika Waititi movies. This is less to me about Thor and more about Taika Waititi to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, as one of those writer directors like James Gunn, who has a voice and has that perfect balance between really smart, snappy dialogue as well as big heart in their films. Guardians 2. Absolutely felt the heart in those movies, and Ragnarok. So I hope this movie. I hope the mixed reviews. I hope I fall into the positive side once I get a chance to watch it. Uh, I did also want to mention, haven't had a chance to talk about on the show. We have had some passings in the comic books world, and we do have San Diego Comic Con coming up, and it's by all accounts going to be a full blown Comic Con. Like Marvel is going to be there with a big Hall H panel. It's going to be, yes, vaccinations required, masks required, but the full San Diego Convention Center, bigger than that Thanksgiving event they had last year. But there will be some omissions there because you have some great luminaries like George Perez, who passed away, as well as Tim Sale, artist Tim Sale of Batman Long Halloween, and all these incredible, iconic portrayals and renditions of Superman and Spider-Man and Daredevil, kind of very definitive stories that we see kind of pulled from in live action now. He suddenly passed away as well. Do you have anything to say about Tim Sale?
Yeah, I mean, he was relatively young. I think he was in his 60s. So it definitely caught me by surprise. I think Tim Sale is synonymous with Jeff Loeb to me. They so often work together on so many projects. I think Long Halloween is certainly going to be, recognized as a pinnacle achievement. But he even worked on like Heroes on TV later in his career. And, for all the faults of that show, I'd say the faults are really in a different realm than Tim Sale was in. Tim Sale is one of those people that you just associate to DC, and just being one of the core artists behind so many DC characters. So
Well,
I'm just sad.
Yeah, there's Batman Long Halloween, of course, which the Dark Knight, Dark Knight pulled from. All right, and there's Superman for All Seasons, which lesser known.
Mhm.
These are kind of like one shots. There are a couple miniseries, Spider-Man Blue and Daredevil Yellow. I think were very, very they're, I think, important pieces as well. They're very like full of heart, very emotional stories. Not just they're kind of not exactly retellings, I want to say, but kind of like these like year two era stories that I think are that we see a lot of, like I said, a lot of movies and TV shows pulling from the similar threads. And you'd recognize the artwork even if you don't know the name. It is Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale as like the pairing that really constituted so much of comics in the 90s. Yeah.
Mhm.
Speaking of TV shows, though, a lot of TV shows are on the air. Genre shows are in the air. We have with Ms. Marvel, which we've talked about, which you and I both loved. I haven't seen the latest episode yet, episode 5, which typically
I haven't either. I just love this show, and the last episode for me, not the most current one, started to lose a little steam, but she is just an incredibly charismatic actress, and I want to see more of her. I find her just completely magnetic on the screen, and just such a relatable, smaller stakes story, which I like a lot.
well, small stakes in terms of the world, but big stakes in terms of the personal drama. I mean, there are no bigger stakes for a teenager than being able to go to your favorite superhero convention and put on your favorite cosplay, right?
Yeah.
And the family drama. This is Aman Vellani, who it's her first acting credit. Blows my mind that and she's one of the. I mean, it's a whole new generation of actors who not only are their first roles, but they grew up as not just comic book fans, but MCU fans. Like the word is that she's more knowledgeable about the MCU than a lot of the co-stars and even a lot of the production crew that she's working with, and she loves the character, loves Ms. Marvel, and really embodies Ms. Marvel, and is just luminous on screen.
Mhm.
There's also The Boys. Have you been watching
By the
The
way,
Boys?
there is just really quickly, just to wrap that up, there is this incredibly adorable picture of her when she's younger cosplaying as Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
And you can see it in like Disney has like a behind the scenes featurette on Disney Plus, but it's also the photos circulating on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah. Couple other quick hits. The Boys, have you been watching?
No, I it's too much for me. It's just too much in so many dimensions. I get how it's good. I get how people love it, but there was an episode this season, and everyone knows what I'm talking about right away, where a lot of superheroes had a party. I was like, too much. I had to tap out.
It is too much. I think the pilot, the opening of the pilot, but the premiere of this season really set the bar high for the lengths they would go, and they do not hold back. It's one of those shows that they're not afraid to show the dangers of superpowers, of how like even when you have a character like Wolverine, right? And even in the movie Logan, where it's rated R, yes, Wolverine is slashing and stabbing people, and there's blood. But if there was a adamantium skeleton with claws that a superhero had and was hacking away at soldiers or whatever, or enemies, it would be the most gruesome thing anyone has ever seen. And The Boys gets close to showing how like that brutality and that gruesomeness in a way that's, they balance it with some of the humor. I think it's the writing's been really great this season. I will give a particular shout out to Jensen Ackles of Supernatural fame,
Soldier Boy,
who plays Soldier Boy, yeah. And his take on Soldier Boy, which is a satirical take on not just Captain America, but like the Chris Evans MCU Captain America, I think is a amazing performance. There's also Westworld. Now, Jeremy and I were big fans of the show. Were you a Westworld follower? Sure.
I tapped out like at season 2. Like it started to lose me when Aaron Paul showed up as this, and they're in like, I'm not even going to spoil it. They're in just like a different world, and I was just like, I want them to be in Westworld, and have it be contained, and it just went too far.
It's not contained. I'm sure they're doing some timey-wimey stuff, and it's multiple narratives. It's a complex story. It's a mystery box in the bad robot J.J. Abrams sense of the word. But I think there is a return to form this season. Ed Harris as the Man in Black has been tremendous, and Evan Rachel Wood and Aaron Paul is in the season. But I think they're reaching an end game. They know it's going to end with season 5. This is season 4 right now, and there is a park that makes an appearance. So they are going back to a park, and I do love the theming of the park. I'm not going to spoil it if you're not following the season, but I think it's a time. It's been so long since season 3, and it makes me want to go back and rewatch those earlier seasons because that was really, really great television. We did the thing I did this holiday break this past week was we binged all of Stranger Things 4, the 4th season. I don't know if have you seen it? It's 9 episodes, Kishore.
Mm-hmm. I canceled my Netflix.
What? Well, what?
Like we took stock, and it was our least favorite streaming platform. I'll probably like re-up at some other point, but when we're looking at it, we're like enjoying Apple Plus the most in terms of quality of show. And then ended up just watching a lot more stuff on Hulu than I expected. Like Only Murders in the Building is a favorite of ours, and so we just let it go. And I figure Stranger Things will be there when I come back to it later this fall, like after the Sandman premieres.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that they were really sticking to all the episodes, or in this case 2 drops, but 7 episodes at once and 2 episodes, the final 2 episodes of the season a month later, because the VFX wasn't finished. But it is by far the most polished show I think on Netflix in terms of the production. It is tightly written. The episodes are all like an hour and 10 minutes and almost an hour and a half in length. The finale of the season is 2.5 hours, so it's basically a movie. But I felt like they did stick the landing. There's a really cool big bad, and for the effects artists who are listening to the podcast, who will follow our coverage of effects work, the costume, the character of the villain this season, and the full body prosthetic costume that he wears is incredible, and combined with like Davy Jones like CG tentacles, it's such a striking villain and a really kind of terrifying performance. I've really enjoyed the season. In fact, it's probably their most successful show, and the Duffer Brothers, who write and direct Stranger Things, they're doing a spin-off show, they announced, and the next thing they're doing is a Stranger Things. They're producing a Stranger Things stage play. Don't know how it's going to work. It's going to be
like a new story, you think, or are they just going to reenact like elements of season 1?
Don't know. I what would you prefer as a fan? I think I would prefer
season 1, because you can imagine like Winona Ryder up against the wall with the Christmas lights and stuff. You can see that being on stage.
My assumption it's going to be like Harry Potter, in that it's like tied to that world, the Harry Potter stage show, where it's not a redoing the books; it's a continuation of a story or tangentially related. I think it's hard for them to retell the story of the show and not capture the performances of those actors. There's so much of it is tied to the 5 kids and their iconic roles now. And I think to recast 5 kids for a stage show would be weird. It's also a lot of story to tell. So it's a very particular, interesting thing. An interesting thing that they would do like a 2-hour stage show set in the Stranger Things universe, and feel like the brand is strong enough to get people out to watch it in theater, in like a theater, not a movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The thing that's going to get us going to a theater, though, is something we've mentioned before: the My Neighbor Totoro stage show, which recently they've shown or announced some of the puppeting work. They're going to be working with. They have been working with the Henson Company out of LA to do the puppets for My Neighbor Totoro with the Royal Shakespeare Company adaptation.
Yeah, there's some behind the scenes videos on YouTube that you can check out that take you a little bit into the behind the scenes processes. I highly recommend checking it out. It's sort of a feat, and it has set records in London for amount of money generated for this kind of like opening show.
Yeah, it's the enduring power of Totoro, of Miyazaki, and I mean, we're going to see, in terms of kids friendly stage shows, we're seeing the Bluey stage show next year. That's going to be in San Francisco for 2 days, and we're going to take the kids to go. And if there's ever a chance that the Totoro show tours the States or tours anywhere in the world, it'll be incredible.
That's going to be like Hamilton level problems getting tickets.
Yeah. Well, the closest thing to seeing a Totoro stage show might be going to the Florida area and MegaCon, because that is the home convention of our guest this week. Her name is Allison Chase. She's a cosplayer, and one of the things you might have seen her create that went viral is a, not exactly life size, but a cosplay size cat bus cosplay. 10 feet long or so, fully covered with fur. Adam met this cat bus when he was at MegaCon last year, and we got in touch with Allison to jump on the show and chat with her and hear how she devises her incredible large size cosplay. So let's take a listen. So we are super thrilled to be joined on the show this week by Allison Chase, a cosplayer and makeup artist. Kishore got us all connected, and we've been big fans of your work. Allison, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing okay.
You are underselling it, Norm. This is like one of the first times I've been a little speechless having a guest on the show, because Allison, your cosplays are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been kind of a heck of a day. This is my first day back from work after a nice 4-day weekend. So rushed here after work, and it was like 100 degrees in Florida today. I don't know if I can take much more of this, but
We'll make this easy on you. Well, first of all, we'd love for you to just introduce yourself, talk about some of the cosplays you've created. And for people who maybe don't follow you on TikTok or Instagram, we'll definitely have links in the description where you can check out Allison's work. But tell us about some of the cosplays you've made.
oh, well, I started out with the first thing that really got me into kind of doing big cosplay was in 2018. I did my Power Loader cosplay, which was supposed to be more like Troy's costume from Community. I don't know if you've seen that episode of Community. It was supposed to be about that size. And then it just got very out of hand because I don't know how to measure things beforehand. I just kind of eyeball it, but I have a horrible like sight to like size ratio. So I just like would carve it out and kind of eyeball it. And that's how it ended up huge. So
how big was it? How tall were you in that cosplay? Like 7 feet or something like that?
At least 7 feet. We did a photo shoot with one of the guys from the Maker FX, and I think it was like 7 to 8-ish, just because we could not find a backdrop that was high enough.
Wow.
That was I did get through doors, so it wasn't too high. I didn't have to crouch or anything. I could get through all the convention doors just okay. But yeah, it was a lot. And so when I got to the convention, there was just something about being 7 foot tall in a crowd that I really liked. And I got kind of addicted to kind of being in the crowd. And at the time, it was my first time I'd ever put that cosplay on, so I could only go a couple hours at a time, but I really loved being out there, and I was like, I need to do something like this again, because I didn't consider myself a cosplayer then. I was just like, this was this one time I really made this big cool thing. And then the next year I was like, I should make a Snowball costume because I love that character. It's great. One of my favorite characters from the show. And I spent a lot of time on the internet. So because I spend so much time on the internet, I pick up a lot of things. And I had previously seen someone make very realistic, mythical costumes, like mythical, not costumes, but like animals. And she made them look so realistic from a technique called needle felting. And because I'm a creative person, I was just like, I could learn to do that. I could do that easy. So I just decided to pick up that skill and just start doing it so that I can create Snowball looking like a real dog in this costume. And that was the first time I ever did puppetry as well in one of my costumes. And I'm very lucky that I have a friend who just happens to work for Sesame Street. And I've seen him make all of these puppets all through college, and he always posts all these puppets that he does. And so you kind of pick things up, and that's where the articulated hands came from. And that's where I figured out how to turn Snowball's head.
My gosh.
So was that armature inside of the head? How did that work?
So we figured out how to do that, me and my aunt, 10 p.m. the night before con, because all of the ideas that I had come up with were not working. So I had tried to buy headgear, like dental headgear online, like on Amazon, and it was falling apart. It was not holding it. There are 2 things of fishing line on each side of the collar. So if you pull on one, it turns head this way. If you pull on the other, and it was supposed to connect to my head so that when I turned my head, the dog would turn. It's really hard to keep stuff stuck on your head. I found that out because it just kept shifting. It kept moving. And it was literally the night before. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to sacrifice my Universal Ravenclaw headband, which was this huge 2-inch thick, very tight headband. And I spray painted it black. And I put elastic as kind of, like a cross section. So on this side, I've got the headband, and then on this side, I've got very thick elastic. And then I sewed it, and then I connected the things here. And while I wasn't able to turn my head, I did find that if I did this and pulled it up and down, that would turn the head side to side. And at the very last minute, it worked. We were very excited, and I didn't get much sleep. And overall, that was an extremely painful cosplay to wear. I made a lot of mistakes on that cosplay as far as weight distribution. So definitely consider that if you're making big cosplays. In fact, the reason it was so painful, or because it was so painful with Cat Bus, I was like, never again. I'm going to wear a costume that I can just in and out, and I'm fine, and I'm not going to have to lift it. And so when I was making Cat Bus, all of that was in my mind. So that's why it's on wheels. I can push it. And the only part of my body that's connected is the elastic around my legs that puppet the legs of the Cat Bus. And then when I need to get out, I just rip, and I just crawl out the butt.
Ace Ventura style. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. The three cosplays you mentioned there, there's this interesting progression because you have the power loader where, for people who haven't seen it, you're on like lifts, right? You're elevated on kind of like stilts.
Drywall stilts specifically.
Drywall stilts, right? And you are puppeting, but you're like physically, you're not articulating the grippers, right? You're just kind of holding these hands out, but it's like you in the suit. For people who haven't seen Rick and Morty, the Snowball costume, that's a very cute, fluffy white dog that itself is kind of also in a version of a power loader in a mech, but you're not dressed up as the dog. You're in like a black suit behind it.
I like to call it a puppeteer suit, but it's really just a black morph suit that I got off Amazon. And, to do that cosplay the way I wanted to, I knew that you were going to have to see my head. And I thought about different ways of like hiding my full body, but I was like, nah, if it's good enough, the illusion will hold up. And with a lot of puppetry, like if you've seen The Lion King, you can see the actors and you can see them puppeting, but it doesn't matter because it's the illusion that's created, and you have a suspension of disbelief that just allows you to just kind of put that aside. And I've gotten a lot of comments on people watching the videos of Snowball. They're like, I didn't even notice the head. They're like, I didn't even notice there was a head or a person controlling it. The amount of people who think I'm a robot in Snowball, Cat Bus, Guardian, people think I don't exist and it's all an animatronic, but there are 0 robotic parts in anything I've ever made. And I am a person. I'm a human. I'm a real person and I exist. I'm not a robot.
I'm laughing and smiling because like everything that you're talking about like emphasizes that you're a true cosplayer, because you've talked about pain, finishing things at the last minute, things not going to plan,
having no idea what
also just also like the pure joy of inhabiting some of these characters, because like you're in these really uncomfortable things for hours at a time and pushing yourself to the limit. Can you talk about how you decided upon some of these different characters? Like, how did you decide to do Power Loader or Cat Bus or even the Guardian, which we haven't gotten to yet, which is, I think, just astounding?
Daydreams. Mm-hmm. If you're just sitting around, I'd be sitting around daydreaming. The Power Loader started when I saw the episode of Community with Troy, and I was like, that would have been the best Halloween costume ever in college. And like, I would daydream about like, man, if I had had that Halloween costume, like how cool would that have been? And so when Con came up, I wanted something on stilts. I knew I wanted to be tall and above everyone. And Power Loader came back to me. I was like, oh, that would be really like, oh, I'll make that because that'll be cool. That's, that would be really cool. And so I got some stilts and I just kind of threw the things together, and I had no idea. I can't emphasize how much I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. I just keep messing with stuff and it just keeps working. Like, I don't know why, it just keeps working out for me. So, But yeah, I learned a lot with Power Loader as far as pain tolerance and exertion for what you can go through. And then I just forgot everything I learned on that. And I started on Snowball because, again, I'm always kind of like thinking of Halloween costumes in the back of my head, or at least I was. Now I'm always thinking about cosplays I want to do. And I saw Snowball, I was like, oh, I like him. Oh, that'd be a cool costume. And so I just did it because it would have been cool. And I can't remember how I came across Cat Bus, but everyone was expecting me to do a third mech. And I was like, nah, 15 yards of fur sounds way better.
And it's the same technique that you did for Snowball in terms of the fur, except now it's just...
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
So Snowball is needle felted, which is sculpting with wool. You essentially take a barbed needle and you stab at a bunch of wool, which knits it all together. And it kind of, it kind of mats it. It mats it together. And you can slowly over time, you can sculpt with that. And then through other techniques, you can make things look fuzzy. With Cat Bus, I said, that's going to take a month. And so I just glued down the fur on the sculpted face. Layer after layer, and the rest is sewn together. But even the layering and the gluing of the Cat Bus fur took a very long time. And then with the Guardian, I was sitting after Cat Bus, and Cat Bus at the time was the largest cosplay I had, and I was playing Breath of the Wild the whole way through making that cosplay, and I was again just daydreaming at con, literally at MegaCon, thinking, oh, what if there was like a little decayed Guardian that just kind of sat in the corner when people went by, like all turned on, and wouldn't that be funny? And then I was talking to, after the contest and all the trouble we had with this huge Cat Bus trying to get it around, I said, hey, to the contest organizer, I was like, yeah, so I had this weird idea for a cosplay next year, but I'm not going to do it. Like, Cat Bus has been such a, logistical pain trying to, fit it places and getting around the stage. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I showed him a video of it. I was like, it'd be a logistical nightmare. I shouldn't do it. And then I absolutely did it, because once I get it stuck in my head, I just was like, but it would be so cool. Nightmare, yes, but it would be so cool. And it did, and ended up really cool.
This sounds so much like the way Adam talks about cosplays, just getting super obsessed and then getting like learning a new skill and then applying it to just a thing that came to him on stuff. Am I wrong, Norm?
No, I think that's right. And I think it's, like the impetus to actually start making, especially a big costume, start making anything big, that's like this big hurdle. Like there's like almost like a mental block. You can kind of like imagine, yes, it would be cool to do this, or yes, it'd be really cool to do that. But to make then that actual leap to actually buy materials, start prototyping, start putting something together. And it sounds like in this case, in your case, it's not necessarily a prototype. You're just kind of working on the thing, whether it's fully realized in your head or you're just kind of discovering it as you're building it. That's like the big hurdle in making for so many things.
It lives in my head for a long time, just daydreaming about it. And but I also have some considerable advantages that help me kind of get over that hurdle, which is that with both Cat Bus and the Guardian, I knew I had someplace to keep it at con. So one logistical barrier of how am I going to get it in and out of con every single night was taken away, which was huge. So I work for a group called Maker FX. Well, I don't work. So we're kind of like a community space, maker space, kind of communal shop. And we have a booth every year at MegaCon, which I can now, since I made my projects at Makerspace, I can display them there, which is huge. It also allowed me with both projects to have help from a community of makers. And that has been like, I wouldn't have been able to do Cat Bus or Guardian if it weren't for them and having that space and having that access. So logistical challenges do definitely come into play, but having that at MegaCon has really opened up a lot of possibilities for what is actually physically possible. To the chagrin, to the chagrin of all the people at the shop who now have to deal with my crazy con crunch preparations and this huge giant thing taking up shop space.
Norm's been at the center of a few logistical problems with cosplays in the past, so I think this rings true. I want to ask a little bit about the Guardian, because it's the first time I've seen that cosplay at scale ever done. Talk about the construction first and foremost. I think it looked like it had a kind of a wood structure, interior structure, and then you built it using foam.
So I actually didn't do the wood structure until I got to the third base. So I've got 3 tiers. I've got head, torso, bottom, I guess is what we decided to call them. And I started on the head just because I was running out of time and I knew I just had to start. So I just started. And it's all foam core board for the top, foam core board for the midsection and the bottom. And then it's held together by PVC pipes, which I knew would be a lot lighter than wood. So just the thin, small, thin PVC pipes. And then it's all held together with expanding foam because that's what I had. And I didn't feel like going out and buying or researching better anything else. And I knew it would work just fine. So I just kind of welded it all together.
Cans of expanding foam is what you built this with?
No, I had expanding foam there and I knew it worked really well as a glue. So I just stuck some expanding foam in all the holes and I just stuck it all together and it held there. And I could have researched and figured out if there was a better adhesive, but I knew it would work enough. So I just did it. And then I covered that structure in chicken wire, thinking that would like very nicely hold all of the expanding foam I was going to put on top of it, which it did and didn't-ish. The PVC held the shape more than anything. But so I put chicken wire on the top of it. I hate chicken wire. I don't think I will try and use that much anymore. It's not great. It's scratchy. And then on top of the chicken wire, I put, some thin plastic and then just sprayed a layer of expanding foam around the entire thing.
Wow.
And I cut that down and then I sanded that down and then I added a layer of paper mache and then I did all the details in more expanding foam and then same process, paper mache, cut the grooves for the LEDs, midsection, exact same process, foam core board, PVC, expanding foam. And then the only reason I built the base out of wood was because I knew that it was going to have to support the weight of the other 2 tiers and because it was going to need to flip on its side for storage and transport. So I knew I was never going to be able to take this huge 7-foot wide base and carry it anywhere. It had to go and store very easily. So we came up with this hexagon structure. I had some help. We did some brainstorming at my makerspace, which was very helpful. And we came up with this hexagon design that one of the sides, we could build a trap door for me to get in and out. And on the trap door, put the wheels for when it flips up and then we can just push it. Oh, and then ingenious. I had to build more to get the shape of the base. I then used more foam core board, which I connected to the wooden base and then more chicken wire. And then again, repeat process, expanding foam, sand it down, paper mache, more expanding foam for the design, more sanding, more paper mache.
I got to know, how many cans of expanding foam?
I have no idea. I didn't keep track. I didn't keep track of. I used different sizes all the time. They must have thought I was crazy because we have a Lowe's right next door to the shop, and I never bought in bulk. I kept buying like 5 to 10 cans at a time, and then going back.
That's very optimistic.
I didn't want to overbuy and not have enough.
Yeah.
So I just kept going back to the store over and over and over again. I don't know. Sometimes my brain just is like, you're going to do it this way, even though it's not convenient.
Related to that build, on your Instagram, you have this video of this like document, this plan, like literally labeled the
Yeah,
plan.
the plan.
Is that like something you created after, or is that the actual
No, that's the plan.
plan? Oh my gosh, it's like this marker drawn, colorful.
Do you want me to grab it?
It's so cool. Yeah, yeah. I'll try to verbally describe it for people listening to the audio, but it's like a blueprint for the Guardian cosplay, but done in marker. It's like a cross section with the interior, those 3 tiers that Allison talked about, and it literally is color coded. It's so it's so just joyful. I love this this blueprint. Yeah, and it has like the caveats of like where the weight is and what materials are used. Like, how close did your construction end up being close to, or to adhering to this poster art plan?
Pretty good. There's a lot of stuff in my drawing doesn't quite reflect what was fully in my head. Like, a lot of the times, like, this is the first time I put a plan on a piece of paper, because most of the time I just kind of do doodles, but it's mostly just I store it in my head, which is not always the best idea. So this time I was like, I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to put it down on paper. For the most part, the structure stayed the same. The idea of a kickstand changed from, instead of having an external kickstand on the outside, it just was built in. And originally you can see that I wanted the Guardian to be at a slant, so that it looked more like it was buried.
Right. It's a decaying Guardian, right? It's like it's
I
covered
wanted
with
to
moss
look like it was buried in the sand a little bit, but adding the hexagon and then cutting off a full line along one of the ends of the hexagon to save height during both storage and transport. There was originally just going to be a rock, but then I realized this is a huge thing. And so pretty late into the process, I got the idea of having just a full wall. So, because and that wall ended up having to cover a lot of space and looking pretty cool, because a lot of the decayed Guardians are on the battlefield in the game, and it's right next to that huge fort wall. So I just kind of spent a lot of time in game trying not to get murdered while I study these decayed Guardians. And like, you have the camera, Link has his camera, so I was taking a lot of pictures in game of just like the wall and the stone, close-ups of the stone. And
I don't know why that strikes me as so funny, but it's just hilarious to think about, like, running around with the in-camera video, camera in a video game, and being like, I'm doing reference.
Don't die. I need this specific angle.
Yeah, Link died a lot of times for reference photos, and the character in the game was doing reference photos for me. So
that's so cool.
Just a couple last questions for you, Allison. Mm-hmm. So you came to this world, to the cosplay world, from the world of doing makeup. Can you talk a little bit about that, like how you got into makeup, and when we were talking about makeup, like paint us a picture of like the kinds of stuff that you used to do.
So I kind of changed my idea of what I wanted to do with my life a lot of times, but I entered Kansas University as a theater and film major, thinking that acting was going to be my passion and that I was going to be a big famous movie star. And then I learned how much I hate auditioning and like generally being in public and but I was always a tech kid. Growing up, I got a job at the Bullis Fine Arts Center in my hometown as a techie back when I think I was 14 was the first time I started working there. So the behind the scenes and scene painting and creating all of that, I had a lot of experience in that. So when I needed to get a job working at the university, I got a job in our theater's prop department. And so I learned that what I really like doing is I love doing makeup and I love doing props. And then there was a really long time that I decided I was going to be a special effects makeup artist. So I got really into that, and I got really into body painting. I moved, I moved to South Korea for a while, but then I moved back to Kansas City, and I worked as a makeup artist there. I did a lot of projects that I was really proud of, but after a while, like, I just wasn't as into it when I moved again. And then when I moved to New Zealand, I tried doing a few projects here and there for makeup, but I got really into building my smog armor for the Hobbit Wellington premiere. And, you know, I was like having way more fun doing the building of the armor and building my first ever dragon helmet than I was with the body painting I had to do. And then I realized, like, I really like just making stuff with my hands. So I still love makeup, but there's just something about spending 2 hours putting on the body paint, and I'm just like, and then you got to wash it off. And with The Guardian and with Kappas, I just get in and then I just get out, and there's no having to clean my face, and there's no having to like cover my face in grease paint that's like sweating off as you're at con. And it's very nice.
I mean, you
for
do
photos.
lose pounds of water weight being in cosplays, but it's a different
Yeah.
kind of cleanup.
You know, I mean, people who cosplay body paint characters know the struggle, and you have, it's a whole different level of logistics that you have to work through. And it definitely is, you do it because you love it, but like, if only you could just take a pill that changed your skin purple or something for a while, it would be so much easier.
One of the most inventive, I think this maybe falls into the realm of the makeup stuff, but you did the T-1000, the at the end of Terminator 2, the cryogenically frozen one with the broken hand. That's just a great costume. I love that.
That was a Halloween costume right before the pandemic, and I was really proud of the makeup, but so my first costume, the photos that I have from that night out, I had shorts on, and then I had to wear like silver leggings because it's Florida and it was 95 degrees on October 31st. And so the first time I ever wore out that costume, I was so proud of it and it looked so cool, but I had done the frost effects with sugar and salt crystals because I wanted it to be shiny. I had sugar and salt. So that's what I made it out of. That's what the jacket's made out of, all sugar, all salt. Well, Florida decided also to be 96% humidity that night. And as it got later in the night...
So it was a dynamic cosplay. You were thawing as you went along.
I literally looked like I was melting because it literally was. There was a point where it was dripping off, like I could see droplets of water coming off. And so all of the sugar and salt was like literally melting and was sticking, and it was crazy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to find some non-melty items. Like I got to figure out something else. So I read different blogs and stuff about like what they used in Titanic for the frost effects for everybody who's in the water. And, you know, like aquarium sand that's very glittery and white can be used as a powder. But then when I did it again for pictures, I just used more sugar and salt because I was like, I'm inside this time, I can use what I want. And it is pretty easy. The makeup you can do in your kitchen. One time I had to make someone look like a broken porcelain doll, and I didn't have any latex or special effects, so I just grabbed some white Play-Doh and I smoothed it on their face and then I cut into it. It worked great. just grab stuff. There's no rules. Everything's chaos. Just do whatever.
So I'm wondering if you have any advice for people that are thinking about cosplay, because like your perspective on this is a little bit different than others. It seems like you just roll up your sleeves and just start doing it.
Yeah. I think you need a little bit of delusional optimism or a complete lack of self-awareness or like limits because if I had to go back and make the thing after seeing it was done. So if you showed me my power loader before I started on it, I'd be like, oh, I could never make that. Truly, I would have been like, oh no, I can't do that. That's like, oh, it's so intricate. That's so this and that. The only reason it got made was because I didn't plan for it to be so huge. I made that in 6 weeks. That was my timetable. I was like, I got 6 weeks. I can throw something together. 6 weeks. And so I just did. And I just started doing things badly, but a really good paint job will cover up all of your mistakes. There's another reason that all of my cosplays are kind of like decayed or supposed to look beaten up. Like a decayed cardigan, million times easier to make than a nice shiny one. Like clean cosplays, those are very difficult. If it's your first time, make it look like it's supposed to be all beaten up, because then you won't be so worried if you make a mistake, because you can just it's battle damage. It's fine.
Well, you gave me a line. Next time my wife like questions a cosplay idea I have, I'm just going to call myself a delusional optimist for sure.
Yeah, I think you really, because the thing about people is that we all, no matter what it is, you're always going to judge yourself at a lower level than you actually are. I think that's just, everyone does that to themselves. You know, like if you're an artist, you're probably going to be like, even if you're a 10, you're going to be like, oh, I'm like an 8. It's fine. So to make up for that gap in what you think you're actually capable of, you need to just be delusional and be like, oh, I'm a 12. And then you'll end up hitting that 10 anyway.
Nice. Love it. Any hints as to what your next daydream project's going to be, or
not to give you the anxiety of the next build,
no.
or any is it MegaCon that you're planning as your next big show, or
yeah, MegaCon's home. MegaCon is home for me. It's where I plan all of my debuts, I guess, just because it's in Orlando and it's like right there, it's down the street. But I have an idea. It's just an idea. It'd be way more difficult than any of the stuff I've done before. Very physically taxing. And I think a lot of people would hate it. So that's why I'm kind of on the fence. I was like, I think it would be really cool. But like, if people aren't familiar with like anime, they're going to think it's super weird. So I don't know. Do you guys watch Attack on Titan? There's a lot of kind of like, not everyone's used to that imagery.
There are a lot of Attack on Titan fans out in the world, though, especially on internet.
I know. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I'm getting the vibe that you're not talking about just being a character.
No, I am. I just like, okay, so like, you both watch Attack on Titan?
Mm-hmm.
You're all caught up? All caught up seasons? Mm-hmm. Okay. Cart Titan with battlement armor, Attack on Liberia version.
Wow.
Maybe.
All right.
It would have to be a cosplay where I have to be horizontal puppeting this huge thing, and then maybe do animatronics on the guns on top.
You'd have to have like some small house next to you or something that you attack or something like that.
No. I think so I'm still figuring out the how. I'm not sure. It might be impossible, but it might not. I'm not sure. It might be very physically taxing. That's the only thing, is I'm worried about my back. But I think it'd be something that would look so cool from the front and kind of awkward from the back. So, and I don't want to get all this work done and then get dress coded for my cosplay. So I'm not totally sure. I might have to check with the organizers and be like, this is going to be like fine, right? Like, do I need to put like just a drape across the butt?
Yeah, like modesty straps. Yes.
Like just.
Oh, I love it. You're making me excited about con season. and all the anxiety that comes up like before you make a build is now within me again, but I welcome that feeling.
To drive.
Allison, thank you so much for your time. Again, we'll have links for people who want to see images of all things we talked about, all the cosplays, in the description. And you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're on Twitter. Any other places where people can follow you?
Yeah, I need to create more, but I'm on instructables.com where it's a great community if you just want to find instructions on how to do things. And if you have made things and you want to make your own instructions, you can enter contests. It's a really great resource for makers. And I've done a full how-to guide on the Power Loader and the T1000 costume for anyone wanting to make their own. And I am working on Cat Bus, Snowball, and the Guardian, but I write really slow, so I am behind. But I am going to add kind of how-to guides for all of my cosplays for anyone wanting to repeat some of the techniques.
Awesome. Well, I highly recommend following Allison on TikTok. It's quite amusing in addition to being instructive. But also, just Allison, I hope we see you at a con soon. I think it'd be great if Tested runs into you at a con.
Dragon Con, if I'm there, you'll see me. I take up a lot of room.
That's a great bumper sticker for cosplayers.
I take up a lot of space.
Yeah. All right. Thank you again so much. Have a great rest of the day and rest of your week. And again, like Kishore said, we'll hope to see you at a future con. All right. So I want to thank Allison again for joining us. That was awesome. So delightful.
Sorry I laughed through it. It was just so like authentic. I just like the whole time I was just chuckling.
Yeah, and like really, if you're listening to the audio, please check out the video because we have images of and video of Allison's work, the behind the scenes making of those cosplays. And I think like she said, just having the idea, putting it down on paper or not, but just getting to the hardware store, buying some spray foam, even if it's just 5 cans at a time, and getting started building. If you have a garage space or any type of maker space you have access to, that's how these things are done. It's about actually just, rolling up your sleeves and starting a build. That will do it for our show this week, Shore, I think. I want to mention some things we've been testing, something I've been testing. I'll be covering this in a future video on the tested, but I did get my Playdate finally, my tiny handheld.
You got to crank it on screen to prove
goodness.
that it's a Playdate.
Oh, it's so adorable. I'm cranking through the menu right now. I've unlocked 6 games so far. So I've had it for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I guess, 2.5 weeks, because two games are unlocked every week with this first season, up to 24 games. So I want to wait for a couple more weeks of games to unlock before I shoot a video about it. But I've also been sideloading some games. There have been some really fun things that fans and indie developers have been making for it. So it's a really novel and fun little device. What about you, Kishore?
I know it's a niche device, but everyone I know that has it loves it so far. I have left my Android overlords and I have joined the cult of Apple. The move over is complete. I have an Apple Watch on now. I have an iPhone 13. I have an iPad Pro. I have an M1 MacBook. I have yielded. And you know what? It's been pretty great so far. There is a seamlessness of having your devices work with each other that I didn't realize how much of a pain that was in the Android world. There's also a number of limitations, but I have to say I've been having a fairly positive experience so far.
What's the thing you miss the most from Android?
I feel like there is a wider library of apps, especially backward compatibility. Like we have an older iPad and like I couldn't get a number of like basic things on there just because it's, more than 2 years out of service at this point. So I miss that. And there's just sort of like a level of customization on Android that you can't achieve in the controlled walled garden that is Apple. But that being said, like, just the convenience of having stuff sort of work together. Uh, and I didn't realize how much better the Apple Watch ecosystem was compared to Android Watch. It is awful in comparison how just like light years behind Android watches are. I know some of the Samsung watches are better. I'm not saying that. It's just it's been surprising for, you know, a thing that isn't very complicated. It's just like essentially counting my steps and sending me notifications, but it is so much more complete. The phones are the phones. They're about the same, but I've been pleasantly surprised, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see the next version of iOS come down.
Yeah, iOS 16, the public beta is basically out now. People can try it out, get those widgets on, new lock screen features. I mean, that was the big thing when I was going back and forth between Android and iPhone. What I could do on the lock screen alone was compelling for Android. But there is a seamlessness, there is a smoothness, there is just a simplicity, I could say, to the Apple ecosystem that I appreciate. And the hardware is fast and it's good looking. So welcome,
I would
welcome
say
to Shore.
the hardware is the same except for the M chip in the laptop. That is like noticeable difference.
Yeah.
Like I am not, no one I think is out here being like, wow, the iPhone 13, even though it is a lot, is faster than some Android phones. It's not that different than Android phones. Anyways, you don't need me hear me rant about that. I just never thought this day would come after years of fighting it. I gave in. Don't say I don't have an open mind, everyone.
Well, if you're waiting for that new MacBook Air with the M2 chip, the pre-order is going to start this Friday at 5 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. Eastern, and it will probably
ships the 15th, I think, too.
It's going to be very high demand. So that's going to be. I mean, it's the new form factor. It's the first with the new chip, and
that should be the most. I like, for my money, that's the MacBook I would get if I had a choice. Not just because M2, I just think that that's where you want the M power in that size and shape.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, that does it for the show this week. Thanks to Allison again. Please follow her Instagram, TikTok, Instructables as well, and we'll have more guests. If you have ideas for folks that you'd like to see us chat with on the show, let us know. You can always ping us on Discord, on Twitter.
Tell us what you're going as at upcoming cons too.
Yeah.
I love that channel on the Discord, seeing cosplays in progress and finished cosplays. But like, comment what you're gonna do. And Silicon's not that far away.
Oh my god, it's a month and a half away. I
saw a poster up on the street the other day, and I was like, oh god, that gives me cosplay anxiety.
Oh my god, yeah, they got a street team. There's a street team going around putting stuff up. A lot of cool YouTubers and content creators are going to be there as well. So it's going to be fun times all around. But thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.